Oh, just finished my dinner, so I can get started with the video. Hi, as you can see all around me today, we are going to talk about making prints. Now, not only do I love taking photos, all these photos are mine, I also love making prints, especially big ones like this whenever I get the chance. Now, I know all you guys know your camera and your lens gear and the specs and the tech really well, but I found that a lot less people know about printing. And today I want to answer the two most common questions I get about printing, and hopefully by answering or demystifying these two questions, more of you will go out to make more prints like me. So the first most common question I get asked about making prints is, what resolution do you need to make prints, especially big prints like this? And the second most common question I guess asked about making prints is, what type of file do you need to make prints, especially big prints like this? Do you need a RAW file, a Tiff file, or a JPG? Now, hopefully by answering these two most common questions, I will help demystify the things about making print, and hopefully this will encourage you to make more prints like me, because I think although Instagram, Facebook, websites are great for sharing your photos, I think one of the best way to show off and share your photos is by making prints. You can put these prints in your home, you can put them at your workplace, and even better, you can give them as a gift to your friends and family. They will definitely love them. So let's talk about printing today. Okay, now let's first talk about resolution. Now I'm going to illustrate what we talk about today with these three prints. Now all these three prints are quite large. They're all 48 inches or 120 cm wide. So they are fairly big prints. Now the first print I want to show you is this landscape photo of lots of buildings. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you so that you can see the details in this photo print. So I'm just going to pan around a little bit of this print for you to see the details, and zoom in a little bit more. You can actually see these little cars, taxis around in the street. I'm going to slowly zoom out. And you can see this landscape in its entirety. That's how big this photo is. It's a very nice print. I also zoom into some stuff a little bit further away. You can see all the details. You can see all the little windows in that building, this little tall building here, and it's all really, really nice. Okay, so this is print number one, landscape. Second print I want to show you is what you always see in the background of my videos. It's this print. This is a black and white kind of a print that is kind of like a cool, kind of airy kind of print with a little bit of atmosphere. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit to this print so you can also see the details in this print. Okay, details are also quite nice. You can clearly see kind of the bicycles in the background, even though it's a kind of darkish photo. You can see the man standing there. So that's print number two, the black and white cool photo. And here is print number three, also 48 inches, 120 centimeter across, a night shot of the side of a building with, obviously there's some lights on the side of this building. And I'm going to also zoom in for you to see the details of this print. There is Santa Claus right there. It's actually why you're seeing Santa Claus on the side of this building is it's a light show. They were projecting these beautiful lights or images onto the side of the building, and this is an image which is taken of the building with the projection on top of. There's a little bit of reflection that's coming from the room here. That's this stuff here. You see my finger. This stuff here is not part of the print. It's just a reflection in the room right now. But I want to show you this image, also really nice, of a projected Santa Claus on the side of the building. As you can see Santa Claus's face. You can see the angels. See everything really nice. So this is print number 3, a night scene of a building. So before I go ahead and talk more, I want you to guess approximately what resolution difference do these 3 prints have. All of them are the same width, 48 inches across, 120 centimeters. Okay, now that you've guessed, and let me tell you what is the difference between these 3 prints. Now this print here is taken by a 50 megapixel camera. So it's a quite high resolution photo. So it actually is quite nice. You can see a lot of details. You can see these buildings, you can see the windows, you can see the air conditioners on top of buildings, you can see taxis in the street. So this is a 50 megapixel print. Okay, so the one on the wall, number 2, the black and white cool atmosphere photo. This one is an 18 megabit photo. Now, plus this one I think I cropped in a little bit, so probably it's a little bit less than 18 megapixels. Still looks pretty cool, really nice. I really like it. Now the third photo is also a 18 megabyte photo, although these photos are taken by 2 different cameras. This one is taken by a entry level, the most lowest cost DSLR by Canon, and it's probably one that is more than 5 years old. It's called a 100D or something. Now, it's a very old camera that I had, and this one was taken by a newer camera, even though it's still 18 megapixels, taken by my Sony A7R3, and this one is taken by my Canon 5DSR. So these are 3 photos, which I think they're all great, but obviously they have vastly different resolution. However, they are prints of the same size, but they still look great. And why is that? And let's talk about it. Hi, as you can see from examples 1, 2, and 3, although resolution is important when making prints, it is not the most important thing in the world. A lot depends on the subject matter that you're taking and what is shown inside your photo. For a photo like this, a landscape photo with lots and lots of things inside, you may want a higher resolution because hopefully you will be able to show your viewer more of the little fine details within this vast landscape. For a print like this kind of atmosphere, airy print like this, black and white one in the back, you definitely do not need a lot of resolution because there's nothing detailed there for anybody to see. It's more a feeling, the mood you want to show from this photo. In fact, I've added some grain to this photo before I print it to make it less sharp and a little bit more airy, atmospheric, make the mood better. So it's fine. It's 18 megapixels or a little bit less. This print here, printed from one of my very old, lowest level DSLR camera, 18 megapixel. It looks great because again, this photo does not need you to see a lot of details. It doesn't have to see any fine details. It's just more like an atmosphere that you want to create the mood, and it looks fantastic. So a lot of it, it's not just resolution, it's about what's in the photo. Now, one thing I have to emphasize is none of these photos have people in them. Now, with people in the photo, you definitely may need more resolution because you want to see people's faces clearly, because one thing the eye can catch really quickly is when somebody's face is not so clear. Especially if you have a big print and a group photo where you have lots of little people's faces in it, you definitely may need some higher resolution. But if you have a photo where it's a big head and a big, it's one face, 2 faces in the large print, you also may not need so much resolution also. Now there is a minimum recommended resolution that I would recommend before you make any print, and that would be 100 pixels per inch, or about 40 pixels per centimeters when you make a print. That means that if your photo is 4,000 pixels wide, you can make a print of 40 inches or about 100 centimeters wide. So you just divide the number of pixels per centimeter or inch, and then you can figure out what is the maximum size print you can make. Again, that's just a rough number, but it works well for me, and I've always used it. Now, I just want to emphasize one more thing, and that is one thing you need to know about resolution is when I'm talking about resolution, I'm talking about resolution straight out of the camera. That is the actual real number of pixels you have. Now, you can go to Photoshop and stuff like that, and they can make the print larger for you, enlarge it, and they have some fancy calculations which even if they enlarge it, the print will still look quite nice. Like example, you can upsize your 400 pixel wide image to 4,000 pixel wide image to 6,000 pixels wide in Photoshop or similar software. However, that is just a calculated increase in number of pixels. And when I say the number of pixels, I'm not talking about anything that is enlarged by a software. I'm talking about pixels that are there, that are real pixels, that are actually pixels that capture the light from the camera. So when I talk about 100 or 100 pixels per inch or 40 pixels per centimeter, I'm talking about how to calculate that number when you take the photo straight from the camera without any enlargement. So next, let's talk about files. Okay, let's talk about files. Now, the most common questions we get about files in making prints is, do I need a raw, TIFF, or JPEG file to make a print? Now, as we did with number of pixels per inch print tests, we also did print tests with people by using raw, TIFF, and JPEG files. So we took a same image and we printed them at the same size using both raw, JPEG, and TIFF, and we gave it to the person, and the person was actually the photographer, and we printed a bunch of these photos, each of them in all three, and we told the photographer to see if he or she could tell the difference between the prints, whether raw or TIFF or JPEG was better. It was a blind test, so the person didn't know which was which, and the result was they could not tell at all which one was a TIFF, JPEG, or RAW file. Sometimes, a lot of times, the images would be almost identical. Sometimes there would be tiny differences in the image, maybe color, maybe brightness, but the difference was minimal, tiny, almost imperceivable. And even though there was a difference, it didn't mean, this is most important, it didn't mean the JPEG was always better than it didn't mean that the RAW or TIFF, which are much higher file size or much more information images, were better than the JPEGs. Often the person would choose, when they saw some perceivable difference in the prints, they actually a lot of times chose the JPEG, which is the lowest quality, lowest also file size image that was printed. So I just want to let you know, there's not much perceivable difference at all between RAW, TIFF, and JPEG when you make prints. Now, these are just examples I want to show you. These two are, one is a TIFF and one is a JPEG file. And again, I've looked at this a lot myself. There is actually I can't perceive any difference in these. And if you mix them up, I would never know which one is the RAW and which one is the JPEG. I mean, which one's a TIFF and which one's a JPEG. These two prints are the same. One is a TIFF, one is a JPEG. And again, if I mix them up, first of all, I can't, again, perceive any difference between them. And when you mix them up, I wouldn't be able to tell you which was the TIFF and which is the JPEG. Impossible. Okay, so these are just two examples I want to show you. Now, the question is, why is there RAW, TIFF, and JPEG? Now, the reason there are these files is, most importantly, the difference is RAW and TIFF, there's no compression, so it contains all the information in each pixel. That means that if you do any editing, for example, you have a very bright area in the photo, a very dark section in the photo, there's a lot of information in there that you can use to bring out stuff. For example, if there was something in the shadow you cannot see, with a RAW and TIFF file, you can use Photoshop or Lightroom or similar programs to bring back out what was in the dark shadows, because the information is there. Now, and also when you do some editing and you save these files, they retain all those information continuously. They don't get worse and worse and worse. Now with a JPEG file, which is a compressed file, which is quite highly compressed as well, you lose all that information. So if you do see a dark shadow and you try to bring out what was in the dark shadow, you may not have that information anymore. So you couldn't bring out what's in the dark shadow, or even in some bright areas. You want to make it less bright and bring back some details. You will not be able to do that with a JPEG. Plus in the JPEG, if you do make some changes and you save it again, the quality increasingly gets worse. So TIFF and RAW, they're more for editing, more for use to making the photo better in the computer. For print, there is actually no big perceivable difference at all with all three of them. So, but one thing, before we end this talk, one thing I do want to let you know is that because we all view our photos on backlit screens these days before we make the print. So we either doing it on a computer or a laptop. Sometimes people do it on an iPad or Android pad. All these backlit screens will make your photo look a little bit brighter than compared to print. So what you want to do before you print is always increase the brightness a little bit before you print, because again, the backlit screen always makes the print look brighter. So you think the brightness looks good on the screen, you make a print, oh, it's always too dark. So again, brighten your photo up a little bit more than you think it's okay on your screen before you make the print. So when you look at it on screen, it may be a little bit too bright. And also to check the brightness, it's actually very easy. Use your home or office printer to make a print of your image. And before you make a big expensive print like this, use your home or office computer to make a print of the image to check the brightness. So once it's on paper, you know the real brightness, and then if it's not bright enough, you can adjust it so to increase the brightness. Now, thank you for watching. I hope today we demystified the two most common questions about prints, and I hope this will encourage you to go out to make more prints, especially big ones like this, like me, and I hope you will share your big prints and small prints or whatever prints with your families and friends, and have a great time. Thank you for watching. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in to purchase any of these photos you see that I've used to make prints today, please contact me. The link is in the description below. And remember, if you like our videos, please give us a like and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.